Hey guys, Coach here. Hey, welcome to the tail end of fall 2025. You know, Maestro and I spent most of yesterday and the day before and part of today moving snow. Not exactly the landscape chore that is in the top 3 of my list. Now, Maestro, total different way of thinking. She loves snow. I swear to God, in a former life, she was a polar bear. She loves the snow. But are any of you out there already jonesing not being able to do too much outdoors, landscape or gardening wise? This guy right here, I'm jonesing hard, very hard. This is my 3rd winter now up in northern Maine. And I have no one to blame except myself. I know where I moved to, but holy cow, this particular year, I don't know why, but man, I miss taking care of the ornamental side of brook and pond. Now, with that being said, how many of you out there are kind of in the same boat as I am? Like, it's not even officially winter yet, and I'm already, I've got snow drifts and snow piles already around this place that are 3 and 4 feet high already. And I'm going, man, thaw is not going to happen until the start of April, usually, but the start of April, maybe even mid-April. And I'm going, holy cow, I've got 4+ months of doing this. So what do you guys do for the winter? When you can't get out and do what you're literally born to do and able to do all that cathartic beautifying of your guys' property, what do you do? I mean, I can't just curl up and suck my thumb in the fetal position. That's just too long. So what I've done a little bit is I have turned to planning. And I've done some SketchUps for the woodshed building that I want to do. I've done some SketchUps as far as additional plantings, but not too much. Don't need too much more here. And I've also concentrated a little bit on the pond dock and some of the plantings I hope I can do down by the pond this year. I don't want to ornamentalize it 100%, but I would like to put some fruit-bearing stuff down there, some fruit trees, some berry rows, and that kind of stuff, and then have a nice dock, and that's what I'm kind of shooting for right now. But boy, do I have a long time before I can do that. Ground is frozen about 12 inches down now and growing. We have single digits again tonight, and looking forward to Christmas. Holy cow, the landscape probability is 0 with temperatures as high as 9 and as low as -3 on Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Bundle up, bearded man. It's going to be a cold one. So my days basically surround keeping firewood stocked, keeping the house warm, making sure my tractor and my vehicles are in good shape. I have been looking into one particular commodity that I hope I can bring in the next couple of weeks. It's really going to help me as far as the garage. And I'll share that with you when it comes in. But hey, right now we are just churning in towards the winter solstice and looking forward to the Christmas holiday. On a good note, and not hopefully to repeat again of March of 2025, right now our brook is in good shape. The 2-inch polystyrene insulation panels appear to be it is frozen on the downstream side of the driveway, but I can hear water going through there. And even if it thawed right now, it only has just a lip on the culvert where it is starting to solidify, but I can still hear it going underneath that ice lip. So right now we're good. Now, if we end up with some kind of a huge melt in like January that we had this year, a whole different story. But what I did do with those panels is I was able to install them and have the ability to raise them up a little bit to allow for more water flow. Right now, at the bottom of the culvert, there is probably only 2 inches above the bottom of the culvert. that is exposed to the air. And now that ice is starting to fill that 2 inches up. But so far, the Big Brook is doing well. So now on to another subject. A subject that it doesn't bother me, but I'm curious to know if you guys ever watch these channels. And it's the yard rescue channels on YouTube and other platforms. These channels, highly successful channels, and I am subscribed to these channels. And I think the guys and the gals that do this work do a pretty good job. It looks like I can't imagine getting into the mow and blow business solely for YouTube. I think these guys are landscape maintenance professionals that found a niche on social media and now are, kind of transferring all their charged work into free yard cleanup. We'll get back to that free part in just a second. But basically, these channels go out and they find rundown yards, sometimes abandoned houses with rundown yards, and they go in there and through a certain number of steps, gain permission to come in and clean them up. They either contact the occupant of the home and offer their service, or they find municipalities that say, hey, this address or this address could really use it. And they use that as their content-driven platform as far as going in and doing the yard work. And they don't charge for it. And being a landscape professional, I kind of look at it in a couple different lenses. Number one, are they doing something good for their community? Yes. Yes, they are. They are doing a good service to either the people that are in the house there or cleaning up the yards, especially front yards, for the community in general. And for that, I give them 2 thumbs up. However, the content that they do have that I have watched is about 30% of people that appear able-bodied. I watched a couple of the episodes this week, and we're talking grown man in his late 30s, early 40s, a woman in her late 20s with a couple of kids, and they tend to spin it a little bit, with a few exceptions, that they're helping out these busy people that don't have time to take care of their yard. There's just not enough hours in the day. And I guess I guess that is kind of true. But then I come back around to the enabling side of this world that we tend to live in nowadays. And are the services that they're rendering, they get their content. They do. They get their content. And by listening to the comments, there's a lot of folks out there that fawn over the efforts that these people make every week of giving back to their community and helping these less fortunate folks out with this kind of work that maybe they just don't have time for. For that, I kind of call semi-BS. You chose to own, which I don't know what percentage of these properties are owned versus how many are rented, and you knew what you were getting into. And I don't know if you ended up taking occupancy with a yard that looked that way, or has it evolved since you got there where it looks this bad? Because I come from a generation that home ownership, whether you're a tenant or whether you're an owner, you're responsible for that property. And at the very least, if you're a tenant, are you required to keep the property up? If you're an owner, don't you have the obligation, especially when you look out your front door and you see your neighbors' yards that are relatively well cared for, and yet you let yours deteriorate that bad? Let me be really crystal clear here. I am not condemning these channels at all. I know as a creator myself, you need content to put out on a regular or semi-regular basis. And when I hear these guys going out searching, hunting, scouring neighborhoods, knocking on doors, and that kind of stuff, they're looking for content. And let there be no doubt about it. The content is their service fee. They're generating that through their YouTube platform and maybe other platforms, Rumble or something that cuts them a little bit of cheddar for doing this work. And in some cases, the bigger channels, they make a darn good living. Probably a much better living than if they had to hire their services out, if they had a route that they had to do every week. Now, some of these channels, I probably surmise, even though it doesn't come across on the channel, that they may still have some service-based accounts that they still do. And then maybe once a week, they do a freebie for content. What bothers me about it, guys, is the occupants sometimes themselves. There are some of them that are probably elderly, indigent, handicapped in one form or another, and that part I understand. And a percentage of these channels actually focus in on those folks, and for that, 5-star. But some of them, it almost seems like you're kind of enabling the people. And having worked in public service and in another career, I know that habits are kind of hard to break. What I'd really like more than anything is to see these yards a couple months after these guys and gals have gone in and done all their cleanup and made them look better. Not perfect, but better. There's a clue. What do they do? Now, wouldn't it be just as nice of a service to provide these yard maintenance services for free? But then if you have such a big following, we're talking 1 million, 1.5 million, 3.5 million, and more to educate and provide maybe some equipment so these people can do it themselves. Or engage the help of these people and their able-bodied kids and their relatives on kind of a yard crash type of scenario where you can go in, you can clean it up, everybody plays a part in it, and you teach rather than just give a freebie. If I was a much younger man and I could do that kind of stuff, I think I would do it with an arrangement that would teach the people how to use a power mower and a string trimmer and a blower, and provide those things through sponsorships and other stuff. You could provide those things to them, and they need to, maintain their place. Would they? I don't know. I don't know. If you're the type of person that allows it to deteriorate that bad in the first place, and you're not hindered in some major way, why not keep the equipment and keep it up yourself? It's my rant of the day. I do watch them, and I have seen elderly. I have seen wheelchair-bound people. I have seen major mental health issues. They can't function quite the way they used to for one reason or another. But when I hear about the time frame thing, and that they're sitting there and being interviewed by the creator, and they have kids and stuff that are there listening to this, and the conditioning and the education that's being passed on to the next generation that may or may not take care of their place at all either. So, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, right? But if you teach him how to fish, you're going to feed them for a lifetime. If you teach these people how to maintain a yard, how to edge a lawn, how to blow down a driveway, anybody can take a broom and clean off your front porch. Anybody can have a garbage can and pick up all the trash that you've allowed to collect in your backyard and in some cases front yard. There's just no excuse. But it does make for good content, doesn't it? For many decades, I worked 40 to 60 hours a week, had 3 kids, a home, a mortgage, cars to take care of, and everything. I remember mowing lawns after a 12-hour day, literally in the dark, to make sure that I kind of kept up with the Joneses in the neighborhood, because I didn't want to be that house. And as a landscape contractor and a designer, I couldn't, because oftentimes where I lived was also my showroom, where I was able to show people what could happen when you do things in a landscape makeover fashion. I had water features and, edgings on lawns and various plant materials. So I couldn't, but I do remember, burning the midnight oil sometimes out there, nipping and tucking, mowing and edging. I didn't blow the yard down clean or anything. I didn't wash it down very much. And where I came from, you start washing down driveways and gutters, you had the water police called on you. So didn't do that either. Not putting myself above anybody. I just took enough pride in where I lived and what I was paying hefty prices for in taxes, insurance, and mortgage payments. And I wanted to make sure that, I made sure that my home kept up with the neighborhood. So there we go. Hey, moving on. Something that I don't know how many people out there do this, but I jumped back into this realm, and I think it's an interesting way of celebrating the holidays for Christmas only, and that is Christmas trees. Now, how many of you out there, raise your hands and tell me if you're a cut Christmas tree person, where you go down to a lot or a store and you buy it and they wrap it up for you, you throw it on the roof of the truck, or you stick it in the back of the SUV and you come home and you set it up, decorate it, and have a wonderful Christmas. And then right after New Year's, for some people, it goes all the way into January, but it's a dead tree, and it dries out, especially in the heat of an indoor environment of our homes, and then they end up at the curb. And some of them, through some municipalities, they have a recycling program, which I think is cool, because at least it's not just going to waste. For me, I've regressed back to my childhood. And I remember Pops, he went out and got himself a blue Colorado spruce, and he put it in half a wine barrel. And I was probably 8-ish or so when that came into our lives. And it stayed there until probably I was about 12 to 13. And initially it was probably about 2.5 feet tall. And when we planted it out in the yard, it was probably about 6 feet tall and very heavy to get in the house. But what we've done here at Brook and Pond, we have adopted the dwarf Alberta spruce, and we have put them in their initial containers, which was outside for most of the summer and fall. And then we recently brought them in for about 10 days or so to decorate up and enjoy for the holiday season. Now, when it came in, it was a frozen block of soil and ice covered in snow, which I had to kind of knock off. And then we have them placed in a water basin. And the water basin, as it thawed, captured the water so the water doesn't go everywhere. And we decorated up an antique train trunk and our bench and puts a few lights on, a few ornaments, nothing fancy. And now we have it. Now, if you guys think about doing something like this, I do it because I don't have a lot. I have a forest of spruce and fir trees around here, but they're not very dense and they're kind of whippy and floppy, and they just wouldn't make a really professional looking Christmas tree, shall we say. And I don't want to cut down live trees to bring it inside for 2 weeks only to throw it out and loss of a perfectly good tree. And if I had to go buy them, there's not a lot of places up here, believe it or not, that actually sell Christmas trees. Can you believe that? I saw a gas station in town that had a few wrapped up ones leaning up against the front wall. I saw a small dinky lot, a little bit bigger than a double driveway, not too far from here. They had a few, but that's a long ways to go. It was like 45 miles to go get that. And so I said, no, we're going back to a living Christmas tree. We're going to bring them in and we're going to do it until they become too big or too cumbersome, but I don't have to pay for that tree every year for a long, long time. And a dwarf Alberta spruce in a lightweight container will always be manageable either through a little hand truck or something similar to get it in and out for the next 10 plus years. Now I paid $29 for a 2-gallon Alberta spruce. $29. I think the average 5 to 7 foot Christmas tree cut at a store nowadays, I'm guessing Maestro will put it up here somewhere, an average cost that those things, and you have to repeat that every year. So this year we've expended $29 times 2, so $60 plus tax, and we won't have to buy one for the next 10, 12 years. So it pays for itself, provided that I keep it alive. Now at the end of the season, we gotta put it back outside. But I'm gonna put it outside gradually. I'm gonna take it and put it out for a few hours each day, the heat of the day that northern Maine can kick off, and then I'll bring it inside and I'll put it out for a few more hours and I'll bring it inside and then condition it to where it can go back outside. So where are you guys at with that? Is that something that you guys do? Living Christmas tree bought in each year? Or are you a cut tree? Which, there's nothing wrong with it. 99% of them are, commercially grown for the purpose of, but there are some that go out to the national forest and they chop them down and use them and then throw them away, which I'm not a fan of. I don't think that, unless it's on your private property, that you should be going out to our national forests and public lands and chopping trees down for the sake of a couple, 3 weeks. Don't believe in that. So let's recap a little bit. Coach is jonesing here. Don't have anything to do except snow management. And that's it's grinding on me already. And I say that in jest, but in total, yeah, it's gonna be long winter months. Way too early to start seeds. So we can't get off on that track. And I've got some feelers out as far as working with a company that provides some seed and maybe some berry plant that we might be able to acquire at a discount or provide it to us as long as we promote. Hoping that comes through. So coming up on the end of 2025, Coach and Maestro always wish all of you a very happy holiday season. And watch what happens. Coming from the nursery business way back when, this happens like clockwork. And this channel is no exception. As soon as New Year's has been celebrated and there's a alarm clock in people's heads where they start thinking about things coming down the pike as far as projects go, including outdoor projects. In January and February come some zones like Zone 11, Zone 10, even Zone 9 at times. January, February, people can actually start planning and planting and executing landscape projects. Now, for me, no, not so much. Not going to be able to really do anything until May. But it happens, and it's a phenomenon that I've seen for many, many years. And I'm hoping that if I'm talking to you, that maybe there's something on your agenda. And now is the time to start thinking it through. Not a week before you want to do it, but thinking it out right now. How much are you going to allocate resources-wise to it? Are you doing it yourself? If you're not doing it yourself, you should be reaching out and touching bases with the professionals that are going to be giving you the service to get the project off the ground and over the finish line. You know, if the people are of good reputation, are licensed, bonded, and insured, and do good work, they're not going to be available just because you pick up the phone and call. They're probably still going to be busy. So plan it out. If you want a March 1st kickoff, and you can really do that, you should be knocking on the door right now. Have a budget in place, maybe a SketchUp of some kind or another. You know, what kind of cost are you talking about? DIY cost or professional cost, or a hybrid of the two? Make sure that you know what's going on. Hey, I really appreciate your time. Something that we put over on the website, brand new, which maybe, or maybe not, but maybe might be in your wheelhouse, is if you're in the market for your first home or your home buying coming up. If you would like to have a very inexpensive piece of insurance, check out the Homebuyer's Landscape Checklist for you. $7 to have a piece of paper that you can literally go to every single property that you're shopping and make sure, other than just the dwelling, what is the property condition? And some checklists and some note spaces and other stuff. And then you always have me along with you, 30 minutes of free podcast that kind of walks you through and what to look for, etc. Check it out if you get a chance. Something really good as a gift, you know, even a stocking stuffer if you have a family member, a daughter, a son, a brother and a sister, whatever. And maybe they're not really attuned to things to look for on the landscape angle when you're buying a home. I guarantee I heard that from a couple of real estate professionals after they watched the most recent video, which I'm sure Meister will put up here or somewhere. They really thought it out, including one real estate agent that said even my own home, I didn't recognize it. So think about that. Anyway, thanks as always to your guys' landscape success. I'll talk to you again very soon, and I'll say goodbye for now.